Givebutter fam. It is so good to see each and every one of you all. I hope you are doing amazing. We have people coming in all over the country, all over the world. Oh, Cindy Lopez, I see you love that song. Me too. You saw me dancing. Y'all caught me? It's okay. Well, before we get started, you know the drill. Please let me know, where are you calling in from? Where are you zooming in from? Make sure you chat to everyone, because we want to know who's calling in, where you're calling in from, what's your organization, because we want to know. We want to. Yep, Latoya, it's BTS. Come on, somebody, we love that. Where is everyone? Where is everyone? Okay, we have Chris from Marion, Massachusetts. We have someone from Israel. Come on, somebody. I told you, all over the world, y'all. We have Julia Thomas from Georgia. We have Tiffany from California. Hello. We have Kyle from Northwest California. We have Elizabeth from Bozeman, Montana. Fun fact, I didn't know Bozeman, Montana even existed until my coworker started working there. Holly, where else is everyone calling from? Jessica, hey, come on, friend. We have Kendall from San Antonio, Texas. Come on, Danielle from Canada. Y'all, I am so excited, okay? We have one of my favorite people joining us today. And I promise you, when you walk away, you're going to say, I am glad that I checked in. All right. So let's get this party started. Y'all ready? Let's go. So if y'all don't know me by now, my name is Floyd Jones, okay? I oversee community and partnerships here at Givebutter. I've worked with small organizations throughout my career, and y'all already know this, but I'm a singer. One of these days I have to sing a song for y'all. I had to give y'all a quick tune, but that day ain't today because we have too much good content, okay? Let's go over the agenda. So obviously, we're gonna do some welcome and introductions. And y'all came in hot today. I see y'all still letting me know where you're calling from. Y'all still letting us know where you're calling in from. So that's great. Thank you so much for that. We're gonna go over a few Givebutter announcements and updates, and then we're gonna focus in on what donors want. Y'all, I still keep getting excited about this because we are gonna give you some inside scoop, we're gonna give you some inside facts, and we're gonna help you understand how to walk away knowing your donors better, okay? I can't wait. We're gonna do a live Q&A with Mallory, and then we're gonna end with some grade A reminders, okay? But first, let's do some housekeeping items. So you guys know the drill. Use the Q&A to ask questions. One of my favorite things about the Givebutter community is that we love to chat, okay? We love to talk back. You know I love the emojis. You know I love to know what's going on. But make sure you use the Q&A, because we check the Q&A when it comes time for the question and answer portion, okay? Comment, as I just mentioned, using emojis in the chat. Make sure you let me know if you're feeling it. If you feel something that's really good, you can give me a little amen. You can give me, I heard that. Okay, put that in the chat because we want to know. But of course, keep the chat kind and respectful because we are one Givebutter fam. Before sending a message, make sure it's going to everyone and not just the hosts and panels. Although you know I love to hear from you, and you know I love to talk back, but make sure it goes to everyone so we can all join in the conversation. Steven from our success team is joining us, and he will be answering your questions live in the Q&A. We also have friends Holly and Grace who will be supporting as well. And if you are in the Givebutter fam, I want to know if you are in, okay? So if you're in the Givebutter fam, please comment, I'm in. Todd's in, Jessica's in, John's in, who else is in? Julia's in, Cindy's in, come on somebody, Kelly's in. Oh, Chris said we in. Okay, I want to know who we is. Is your whole team here? Come on. Carla's in. Teresa's in. I love it. Well, if you're not in yet, first of all, what you doing? But second of all, someone from our team will drop the link for you all to join in shortly, okay? Y'all, I'm so excited. This is a great group. We got hundreds of y'all on the call and continuing to join, and I can't wait. But before we dive in, I have one quick question. Okay, so we've been chatting a lot about intention recently, right? We've been talking about intention not only for ourselves but for our donors. Okay, it's been really important, a really important fact for me recently, because I've been thinking, we set intentions for so many other things, but do we set intentions for our donor base? Do we set intentions our donor community, right? I always say our people are partners not piggy banks. Okay. So, how are we integrating authentically with our partners? Okay. So, the first thing that we want to do before we even bring Mallory to the stage, I want to ask you all a question. What are one or two words to describe the way you want your donors to feel? Okay. What are one to two words that describe the way you want your donors to feel? Cindy says appreciated. I love that. Renee says involved. I love that. Fad says appreciated and included. Gideon says partner. I love that. Cosette says empowered. I love this. Kelly says included. This is so good. This is so good. Well, here's what I want you guys to do. One, look at the words that are in the chat because this is incredibly powerful. We all have similar goals. We want everyone who is contributing to our organization to feel connected with us. But now I'm going to launch a quick poll. I want to actually see, how do you think they actually feel? Will you launch that poll for me, Nate? So, how close do you think your organization is to making donors feel the way that you want them to feel? How close do you think your organization is to making your donors feel the way that you want them to feel? A few more seconds here. All right, let's see what that answer is. So we got a mix between 2 and 3. So 2 says we're getting there, but have a lot of work to do. And 3 says donors feel this way sometimes. But my goal by the end of this session, and I know our team member Mallory feels the same exact way, is that we want to help push you closer to 5, okay? Because we all have intentions, right? But intention without action leaves us falling flat. Okay. And so today I'm hoping, and my hope is that my intention, I should say, is to have you all leave with strategies, tips, and tool that will help you get across the finish line. Okay. Are y'all ready to get these tips? If you're ready, can you type ready in the chat? If you're ready, can you type ready in the chat? I want to see how y'all feeling. Julia's ready. Jasmine's ready. Oh, come on. Somebody's ready with 4 exclamation points. Come on, somebody. It's tip time. I heard that. Well, with no further ado, I'm so excited to bring up one of my favorite people, Mallory Erickson, to the stage. So Mallory is from Berkeley, California. So for all y'all West Coast folks, Mallory's from there. She's the CEO and founder of Mallory Erickson Coaching. She helps nonprofits fundraise more from the right funders so they can stop hounding people for money. Okay, and I know we all love that. But one thing that I think is so interesting is her story. Mallory started as a fundraiser herself. And in the last 7 years, she's been fundraising in the multiple 7 figures every single year. Okay. She's supported hundreds of organizations through her amazing Power Partners program. She's been featured in Forbes. She's been featured in so many different publications. And she's about to bring these tips to y'all. Okay. Oh, yes. Hillary said Mallory is amazing. Come on, somebody. We already know. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring my good friend, Mallory Erickson, to the Givebutter stage. Mallory!
Oh my gosh. Hi, Floyd. I could not be more excited to be doing this webinar today with you and with Givebutter and the Givebutter family. So thanks so much for having me.
Mallory, the thanks and the joy really is from us, okay? We are so grateful to have you and your words and your expertise and just your persona and everything that you bring to the table to our community. So I'm gonna stop gabbing and I'm gonna give it all away to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It is so wonderful to get to spend today with you talking about what funders really want and how to create moments that matter with your funders. So let's kick this off. I have a ton of content to share with you. And here's something I want to say. I'm going to share a little bit about my story too and sort of what brings me to this moment in time. But we're going to be walking through a few concepts today that are really new for folks, right? We're going to be using some executive coaching principles interwoven with fundraising strategy. And I want you to hang on with me because everything builds on each other. So some of what we're going to talk about at the beginning might feel super new. And I want to encourage you to lean in because you are going to walk away today with not only some very concrete tips and strategies, but you're going to walk away with an entirely different way to approach the question around what funders want in the future, so that you can continue to generate these strategies for yourself. So if we have not already met yet, it is so nice to meet you. My name is Mallory Erickson, and like probably so many people on the call, and you can tell us in the chat, I became an accidental fundraiser when I became an executive director. I started to work my way up through the nonprofit sector, and before I knew it, I had big fundraising expectations that came with my work. And the reality was that I hated fundraising. And I always show this picture because I think it just summarizes what so many people feel. If you go to the next slide, which is just that we have this expectation to put up these appearances everywhere, that everything is running really smoothly. We got it all tied with a bow. But at the end of the day, we are exhausted and stressed and overwhelmed. I did not have a fundraising pipeline that I trusted. And I really hit a moment of burnout. I dealt with chronic pain. I felt like I was deprioritizing my friends and family, and I felt like it wasn't sustainable. And I had a moment even of considering to leave the nonprofit sector, but something kind of amazing happened instead. I ended up getting executive coach certified, which actually pushed me to really start to understand some of the thoughts and the beliefs that I was holding about fundraising and money and value. And that framework was really the first framework that started to push me to think about fundraising as something fundamentally different. And so if you go to the next slide, you'll see that I used well, you won't see on the slide because limited words, right? They always tell you that about slides. I really put together these executive coaching principles mixed with habit building and behavior change, mixed with fundraising strategy. And that's what's led to my signature system, which is called the Power Partners Formula. And it's with all of the insight in the Power Partners formula that the content that I'm going to be sharing with you today was born. And actually, some of it is brand new that I haven't even put into the formula yet. So the Givebutter family, you are the first group ever that is hearing some of this like cutting edge research around what donors want. Okay, take me to the next slide. Probably two, actually. So executive coaching is really the understanding that everything starts with our emotions. And before you think that I'm going to spend the majority of today talking about how we feel, I'm not. But I do want you to understand that having awareness around how you feel as a fundraiser is a critical step in the process of understanding what your donors want. And let me explain. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see something called the cognitive behavior loop. This is the core of coaching. This is the idea that our thoughts and our beliefs inform how we feel, and how we feel informs the energy and the actions that we take. So anytime we're not seeing a result that we want, maybe, Floyd asked you those two questions at the beginning around what you want your funders to feel and how close you are to that number. If there was a gap there between what you want them to feel and how well you feel like you're doing with that, that's a gap in your results, right? There's some challenge that you're facing around your results related to making your funders feel the way you want them to feel. And the reality is that those results are not just related to the action that you're taking. They're related to the way that you feel about fundraising. They're related to the thoughts and the beliefs that you hold about fundraising. And if we don't actually examine each of those pieces, then what happens is we stay in this hamster hustle wheel that keeps us continuing to just try to act a different way, but we actually don't close that gap between what we want and what we do, right? And so that's what we're here today to talk about. We're here for you to understand, have a better idea of what your donors want, and to give you the capacity and the ability to close the gap so that you can deliver on that. So that you can deliver on that in the way that you segment your list, so that you can deliver on that in the way that you meet one-on-one with your donors, so that you can deliver on that in the way that you get to show up every single day as a fundraiser. And so before you say, okay, Mallory, no, it's really about fundraising action. It has nothing to do with how I feel. I'm going to push you around this for a second. So here's a non-fundraising example that I give sometimes. Many years ago, I was talking to a group of parents and students about test anxiety. And I said to the room, chemistry is not stressful. And everyone was like, Mallory, that's why we're here. And I was like, no, chemistry is just chemistry. What's stressful are the thoughts and the beliefs that you hold about chemistry. I'm bad at
Mm.
science, so I'm going to be bad at chemistry. I did poorly on the last test, so I'm going to do poorly on the next test. The teacher likes Johnny so much more than me. Those thoughts, those beliefs, that's actually what makes chemistry stressful. And the exact same thing is true about fundraising. Fundraising is just fundraising. What makes fundraising feel stressful is when we say that donor must be mad at me because I emailed them too closely to their gift. That thought is stressful. Fundraising is stressful when we say I don't have enough donors to hit the goal on that campaign. That's stressful. The thought I don't have enough time to run a
Mm.
good campaign. That thought also stressful. But none of that is inherently in fundraising. That is actually in our thoughts and beliefs. And the best news about that, you guys, is that we have control over our thoughts and our beliefs. That is the best news about all of this, which means that we can change the way that we feel as fundraisers. And that's what's going to change the way that we show up and the results that we have. And it's what's going to allow us time and time and time again to understand what our particular donors want, which is the key here, because all of you have different organizations. Your donors want some of the same things based on human psychology, but they want some different things based on your community. And you need the skills to understand what your specific donors want as well. So Floyd, you got something for me?
I mean, I'm not going to jump in too much. I'm not going to jump in too much, but the chat right now is blowing up. Everyone is like, this is so good, preach. But one thing that you just talked about that I really want to hit on, and this is something that I always say, we can't control the thoughts that come into our mind, but we can control the thoughts that stay in our mind, right? And so many people have negative and limiting beliefs. I wouldn't say negative because there's no positive or negative, but limiting beliefs when it comes to fundraising around I'll never have enough. We're never going to have enough donors. I email them too many times. So all the things that you're saying is so critical and so important. And as Mallory is talking, I want everyone to start jotting down what are some of the limiting beliefs that you have around fundraising? Because once we can actually name them, right? Once we can name them, we can start taking away the power that those limiting beliefs have. So this is all so great. I'm gonna zip it.
Well, Floyd, you actually hit on this really important piece, which is this idea of first thought, second thought. So we're not going to talk about this in too much detail, but yes, we all have first thought programmed reactions to things, right? We all have a stress response to something based on what's happened in the past or a belief that we hold. That's okay. It's okay that your first thought is of fear or stress. What's critical here, and we're going to talk about this in the next section, is consciousness around your thoughts and beliefs, which allows you to move from first thought to second thought. So first thought is not conscious, it's automatic, it's the reptile brain. Second thought is, what do we want to believe? How do I catch that first thought, recognize that that first thought is holding me back from taking effective action, and then change the thought in that moment? Because let me give you an example. If your first thought to a donor not emailing you back is, that person might be really mad at me, for emailing them so close to when they gave the gift, the example I gave before. If that's your first thought and you don't create a second thought and you let that first thought run the show, how many donors do you think you're going to email today? 0. Because you are holding on to a belief, a thought that a donor is mad at you for emailing them too close. And it's a totally unfounded belief. It's not supported by data. You have no information about why they haven't emailed you back at all, but it's a fear-based response, a very natural fear-based response. But if you don't convert that first thought to a second thought, if you don't challenge that thought and say, actually, the reality is that that donor has a full-time job, they have a lot going on, they have 2 young kids, and it's been 48 hours. So there could be a number of reasons why they haven't emailed me back. If you don't consciously convert to a second base thought, then you continue to act or not act based on the first thought. So that's why exactly what Floyd said is actually such an important piece. And there's this other concept around energy that helps us understand this first thought, second thought component as well. So I'm going to use this to move us right into this idea of catabolic and anabolic energy. So I find that with fundraisers, sometimes it's hard to tap into the thoughts without first recognizing how it's sort of showing up in our body. So this is the idea of catabolic and anabolic energy. Everything in the world is energy. Okay. Everything in the world is energy, including us. And so, for the purposes of this training, we're talking about energy in two components. Catabolic energy is a really depleting energy. It's exhausting. It's filled with a lot of judgment, a lot of black and white thinking, a lot of right and wrong. Anabolic energy, on the other hand, is a fueling energy. When we say we're in a flow state, actually go back to the slide with the 2 on, because I'm going to take you through just a super quick reflection. Anabolic energy is a really fueling energy. It's when we feel creative in a flow state, right? A lot of folks say to me, Mallory, I'm so burnt out. And they're like, I'm not working more than 40 hours a week. What am I burnt out around, right? We do so much around trying to kind of control our calendars and our time. I don't really deal with time management in my work. I deal with energy management, because the more time you spend in catabolic energy, that's what's making you exhausted. And feelings of being trapped make us feel a lot of catabolic energy, which is exactly why the pandemic has exhausted us in so many ways. We don't feel like we have a sense of choice. And so understanding the relationship between how we feel and the energy that we bring is a really important piece of unwinding our own cognitive behavior loop. So I'm just going to have you take a quick second, and you can come back to this later too. And on the next slide, I was just encouraging you to think for a second about a time you've recently experienced catabolic energy. What was the experience? What was the circumstance that happened? Maybe what was the belief you pulled from that? And then what did the energy feel like in your body, and how do you feel like it impacted your performance? So maybe after this webinar, just for the sake of time, come back, give yourself the space to do this reflection. And then do the same thing with anabolic energy. Think about the last time you have felt really fueled with anabolic energy, right? You felt really inspired, creative. We've had those donor meetings where 3 hours go by and you're like, whoa, what just happened, right? That's that anabolic energy when we find the win-win mutual benefit. So I want you to think about, what was the experience? What did the energy feel like? And how did it influence your performance, right? And your results, and maybe even your understanding of the donor. So we're going to go back to this later, but the reality is that anabolic energy gives us clarity. It gives us clarity, and it gives us access to empathy that catabolic energy does not give us. Catabolic energy is tunnel vision. When we're in catabolic energy, when we're in that judgment, black and white thinking, we can only see things through our lens. Anabolic energy gives us access to see the world through multiple perspectives. I think about it as going from tunnel vision to the prism. And so if you want to really be able to understand what donors want, what the different segments of your donors want, you need access to anabolic energy. And again, just as Floyd said, also, it's not about good or bad, right? There's a whole other discussion, but there are times when catabolic energy is helpful. But when we're talking about getting into the mindset, getting into the lens of your funders, really being able to connect to what donors want, that does require you to have access to anabolic energy. So we only have an hour today, so I'm not going into this in a ton of detail, but this idea of catabolic and anabolic energy, this exists on a spectrum. And I was trained as an executive coach by an organization called IPEC. They have something called the Energy Leadership Index. And I have taken these 7 levels of energy, 7 levels of leadership, and turned them into the 7 styles of fundraising. So the lower styles of fundraising are filled with more catabolic energy. Style 1 is like victimhood, martyrdom, paralysis. Let me tell you, March 2020, that's where everyone was. Everyone, right? It was like level 1 city, right? And then it moves all the way up to level 7, which is like enlightenment. And that's not where we live, but on the way up, we pass, anger, combativeness, level 2. Level 3 is rationalization, which is like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I have a feeling that maybe lots of people are there right now. Level 4 is a helper energy. 5 is win-win. 6 is like intuition, creative genius, visionary. And 7, as I said, is enlightenment. You don't need to be like writing down all 7 of these things. The thing to understand is that, one, we are always a combination of all of these different energy levels. And like it said at the bottom of the last slide, it's all about conscious choice. So it's about recognizing, like, my body is really exhausted right now. I am feeling stuck. I am feeling like I don't know which action to take. How can I get curious around this? How can I access some more anabolic energy levels? And it's also recognizing that that level 1, no matter what, isn't going to give you access to what your donors want. That we have to be able to unravel the thoughts and the beliefs that we're holding and show up with higher levels of energy if we want to be able to really hear from our donors, process the data on surveys they give us, look at the data about their responsiveness. And it's what I want you to bring to the rest of this webinar. So I'm going to start dropping the tips now around what your donors want. And when we're moving through them, I want you to be aware of the energy in your body. I want you to listen for some yeah buts that might come up. I want you to notice where you get excited. The very, very, very first thing we can do around taking control of our energy and our own cognitive behavior loop is awareness. So if all you walk away from today's session with is more awareness around your energy and the relationship to how you show up as a fundraiser and your energy, that's a win for me. If you walk away with that. And so I would love to know, I can't see the chat, so maybe Floyd can tell me. I want y'all to put in the chat right now what level energy you feel like you're showing up with right now. And if you want to share where you started at the beginning of the webinar and how you might be feeling right now, and you don't have to get these numbers perfect, like just decide what they mean to you, right? 1 is the lowest level, the most catabolic energy. 7 is the highest level of energy. Tell me where you're at right now as we start to move into these tips.
I love that. Yes, y'all, 1 to 7. Where are you at on the list? But one of the things I wanted to highlight, Mallory, before we dive into these tips too, and really point out is that everything starts with you, right? Everything starts inside. I always say this: alignment determines your assignment, right? So if you're not aligned inside, there is no way that you can reach up to your donors. We were just talking about this yesterday. If your cup is empty, how are you going to fill anybody else's cup? You know what I'm saying? You can't pour into anyone if your cup is empty first. And so this is, I think, resonating with so many people because we're really focusing on, how am I focusing on filling up my cup? How do I focus on making sure I am serving myself so I can be the servant leader that I seek to be, right? So everyone in the chat, I'm seeing 5 stokes. Come on, I'm seeing 3s. Okay, but I'm seeing some 5s. Okay, we're moving up. We're moving up. I'm seeing a lot of 4s, but we're moving up. Okay, so I'm gonna give the rest back to you, Mallory.
You know what? I want to say also, if you responded or didn't respond, but you're like, I'm still feeling 1, that's totally okay. The most important thing that you can do is acknowledge and validate how you feel. When you are filled with catabolic energy and you're like, oh man, I'm in that catabolic energy state that Mallory mentioned, the most important thing to do in that moment is acknowledge and validate how you feel. Yep. Okay, here I am. It's when again, that like first thought, second thought, a lot of times we start to beat ourselves up then about having catabolic energy. That's not the point, right? The point is to just be aware of the energy that we're bringing to a certain situation. What's triggering that anabolic energy? What's triggering that catabolic energy? We're always a combination of energy levels, and everyone on this call, everyone, I've done this assessment hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Everyone on this call has anabolic energy in them and access to it. And so it's really just about choosing the thought and the belief that you want to enter into a conversation, a strategy session, or customizing like a donor campaign. So let's dive into the tips, and then I will start to sort of walk you through how this applies to the actual tips around what donors want. Okay. So, back 1 slide. Yes. Okay. So up in that level 5 energy is this idea of win-win and mutual benefit. And this is something that we forget often as fundraisers, that philanthropy, that giving, that investment is a gift, is an opportunity, is an invitation for people to do something really meaningful, and an opportunity for them to build community and a network and positive memories. When we're down in that catabolic energy state, we're like, oh man, I'm asking people to give me something they don't want to give me, and I'm begging them and I'm making them uncomfortable and I'm taking away their hard-earned money. Those are all catabolic beliefs. The reality is that giving and donating is a wildly positive experience for people. It releases dopamine, it releases serotonin, it helps people make friends, it helps people build their own identity. And we have to be open to that and recognize that and be able to shift our energy up to that space to continue to make offerings, to continue to make invitations that get more people involved and invested in our group. So when people give, there are 4 things that I think about. And these are not always happening consciously with donors, but there are 4 drivers around what donors really want when they're giving to an organization. They want belief that their involvement matters. That's from the $5 donor to the $20 donor to the $20,000 donor. They want belief that their involvement matters. And I believe actually we as a sector do not do a great job of this. And I think one of the pieces of evidence of that is, as we've seen this Ukraine crisis, and I mentioned this, Floyd, on our live IG the other day, we've seen with the crisis in Ukraine how many people have expressed their generosity via Airbnb or buying digital art on Etsy or something like that. And I'm not criticizing those acts of generosity, but what that demonstrates to me is how deeply people who can't maybe give a ton monetarily want to know the impact of their giving. And because we as nonprofits aren't celebrating that $20 donation, that $5 donation, that $100 donation, they're searching for other avenues to see their impact, to know that their money mattered. And so this is a huge thing that donors really want, and we need to figure out ways to be able to express that and celebrate that in our organization. The second is that they want positive memories with the organization. So here's this amazing thing. Somebody gives online, they click that button, dopamine is released in the brain, happy chemical, right? But so many donors don't remember who they gave to, when they gave, how much they gave. Why? Because we are not converting that dopamine experience to a serotonin-based experience. So dopamine is an immediate happy response, but it is not linked to memory. Serotonin is linked to memory. And we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you some tips on how to convert a dopamine experience to a serotonin-based experience. That is what allows a donor to really remember your organization. And when you do this, when you give donors a memory, their retention rate is significantly higher. I think the data is something around between like 56 to 64% higher when there's a memory-based experience. I'm going to give you some concrete strategies on how to do that. The other thing that donors want is they want a sense of belonging to the right group. Like, am I in the right place? Are these really my people? Do I have a sense that this organization represents what I care about in everything that they do and all the different ways that they show up? When we take an action, our brain starts to search for validation that we made the right decision. So when they clicked that donate button, when they had that dopamine hit, then their brain is like, validate, validate, validate. And so when they don't hear from you, or they don't get a thank you, or they don't get the follow-up, or they don't know how their involvement matters, they're like, maybe I made the wrong decision. And our brain does not want that input. Our brain does not want that. It does not like it when we feel like we've made the wrong decision. So they really want to have some feedback loop that they've made the right decision, that they're in the right group. And that's really linked to this fourth point here, which is that a connection to their personal identity. Identity. They want to know that this is a part of them. I'm going to say this a little bit later too, but Seth Godin has this amazing quote, people like me do things like this, right? People like me do things like this. This is the thing we are always doing as human beings. Every time we make a decision to join something, to do something, to give to something, we have made a decision that people like me do things like that. People like me do a meal train after our friend has a baby. People like me go and volunteer around the holidays. People like me give to this organization because we care about blank. And when we do the thing, it builds our personal identity. So these are just 4 examples of what a gift giving is to the donor. And I just want you to like let this sink into your bones that your donors are getting such an incredible opportunity, such an incredible life affirming experience to be able to invest in your organization. And I want you to hold that really close when you feel like you're experiencing that catabolic energy around, oh God, but I just don't want to send that other email, or oh no, but maybe we sent 2 emails too close to each other. This is the slide I want you to pull up or print out, put it on your wall. I want you to remember what an opportunity you're giving them. Floyd, anything before I jump into some of the specifics around this?
You got me out here just laid out, because that is specifically the point. And it's something that you and I talked about all that. And I just put it in the chat. Giving is just that, a gift. Giving is a gift. And y'all probably didn't know that you guys were helping usher a holiday for your personal donors every time they gave to your organization. But that is precisely what you are doing. And one other thing that I always say is that we as fundraisers are building bridges for our donors. We are building bridges. What I mean by that, you are working on a cause, an issue, an area that people want to play a role in solving. Someone wants to help eradicate homelessness. Someone wants to help eradicate childhood low literacy levels. You are a bridge to making that happen. So remind your donor of that and make it easy for them to do that. And then also find a way to celebrate within yourself as well, that, hey, I am now a part of being the change that I want to see in the world. Good stuff, Mallory.
Oh, yes. Yes. A few things just to double click on that. Something I say, like a mantra I hold with our Power Partners folks, is I really dislike this saying, like, this is for charity. And my rewrite of that is, this is to solve a problem we both want to see solved. That's what giving really is. This is to solve a problem we both, the organization and the donor, want to see solved. That's really what it's about. It's not some favor. It's not some guilt gift. Like, not when you're fundraising really through the lens of what your funders want. When you fundraise through that lens, when you tap into that, what you're actually fundraising around is how to solve a problem that we both want to see solved. All right, let's get into some super specific tips. And I just want to remind you, because when I talked about the catabolic anabolic thing, you were probably like, what does this have to do with anything? And what I want you to understand is that the reason I shared that framework with you is because when you're having trouble tapping into this for yourself, when you're going to implement it, I want you to recognize, what kind of energy am I experiencing right now? What kind of energy am I experiencing, and how is it impacting my ability to actually implement this? Because your awareness around that is going to help you get over the action line. I'm not sitting there with you when you send this email. So I need to give you some tips that are going to help you get over that action line when you're sending the email too. And your awareness around your energy is exactly that. So, okay, number 1 on that list was belief that their involvement matters. So here's what's really important about that. You need to align your ask language with how you're going to treat them. So sometimes first of all, there's some really interesting data that has just come out around the use of the terminology show your support versus make a difference. When a campaign used the term show your support, many more people gave, but the amounts that they gave were lower. When they used the term make a difference, less people gave, but the giving amounts were much higher. What does this tell us? This tells us that when somebody says make a difference, they're being asked to make a difference, subconsciously, they're like, okay, this really needs to be one of my top giving priorities, because if I'm going to make a difference, it needs to be big, right? Like, I'm not really going to make a difference with $10. I'm not going to really make a difference with $25. So the donor responded to that. right? And how they behaved. Show your support made people feel like, oh yeah, I can show my support with $5. I can show my support with $10. So you want to customize your language based on one, what are you actually trying to do? Is your campaign trying to move donors to give over a certain amount? And what you're really trying to do is understand who's primed and ready to perhaps move into a major donor bucket? Or is this a grassroots fundraiser that's really just about the number of people giving? If your metric is around how many people give, because you're really trying to build the top of that funnel, then you should use language like show your support. And then the piece here that I just want to double click on is that your thank you strategy, your follow-up strategy needs to match this. If you are asking people to show your support, because that's what matters, then you need to celebrate everyone who shows their support. So that's number one, belief that their involvement matters, with a little new data thrown in there. Number two, we're going to dive deeper on as soon as I see the slide because I don't memorize them in advance. Okay, number two, positive memories with the organization. So this is what I explained before, that when we give, we get this dopamine hit, but if it's not converted to serotonin, we don't remember a lot about the giving experience. So two things here. One, make the thank you personal. You've all heard this till we're all blue in the face, but what I want you to know is that when I was a fundraiser, people told me, thank donors over a phone call in 24, 48 hours. And I was always like, why? Like, I'm just going to do it Friday. I'm going to batch it. I'm just like, well, it can't possibly matter that I do it within 24 or 48 hours. Turns out scientifically, it does. That's what converts the dopamine to serotonin, but it's only in our bodies for a certain amount of time. So making that thank you call, that personal thank you call within 24 to 48 hours is really critical. Another thing that really helps cement memory for a donor is allowing a donor to give, do, or say something personal in addition to the money. So there's a lot of interesting data around retention rates increasing when people can leave a little note, right? And Givebutter software allows, I think, for a lot in this one in particular that I love, right? Like people leaving comments and cheering each other on. Retention rates go up when people have the opportunity to say something in addition to giving their gift, right? That's awesome. They also, like, if you're live, there's been crazy, interesting data around how much retention rates increased when people left a pen that they cared about with their gift. So they were asked to give a pen that was meaningful to them. This is one of the studies, a pen that was meaningful to them in addition to their gift. And giving that actually made people be retained as a donor so much more because it's a memory. It was personal, right? I think as fundraisers, this is where the catabolic energy and cognitive behavior loop come in. We're like, oh, but we already asked them for money, so we can't possibly ask them for anything else. And that is a total limiting belief. What your funders want are other opportunities to participate. They want really personal opportunities to participate. So, okay, number three. I could go on about each of these forever, so I'm just like having to rein myself in. Okay, number three, a sense of belonging to the right group. So how does this campaign signal this for them? So this happens both in terms of what I said in terms of validation after the person gives, but also from the very beginning. I got a fundraising email the other day and I have literally no idea who they were talking to. It wasn't me. Like, they were treating me like I was the best friend of this organization that I had made. I don't even think I've ever given to them before. I didn't even know who the organization was, right? They had clearly not segmented their list, and it made me know right away, this is not the right group. They are not even treating me. Like I'm not in here. This says nothing about who I am, right? So segmenting your groups and your communication based on previous engagement, what they've been interested in, this is super important, right? I know this is another thing Floyd and I have talked about a lot, and like, luckily, Givebutter can help you support, right? This is critical. The other thing is no fluffy language. Clarity and purpose with confidence. The thing that bugged me about that email I got the other day is that they also were being very kind of loose in what they were saying, and they were being strong, but they were wrong. Like, it wasn't me. It was directed at someone else, right? So it's okay. That's really different from saying, here are the things we stand for. Here are the things we value. Talking to the person, like, we know you're new to this community. You've given once before, which we're so grateful for. And we just want to be clear about who we are and the needle that we're working to move. That type of clarity, that type of purpose, are some people going to recognize that it's not the right organization for them? 100%. But you know what it's going to do? It's going to make it super clear to the right people that it is the right organization for them. And just like Floyd talks about alignment, like once you know your alignment, you know your assignment. Did I do that right? I hope so. I love that, because it's all about alignment, but you cannot prioritize alignment without letting people go, without saying, like, in order to be able to say, like, these people are in alignment, you also need to be able to say, these people are not in alignment. And that's okay. I think as nonprofits, we want to be everything for everyone. We end up being no one for everyone. And like, it's the exact opposite, right? So no fluffy language, clarity and purpose with confidence. That's what's going to help people identify that they are in the right place, that they are in the right group, that this organization is for them. Okay, number 4. Take a sip of water.
Okay, while you're taking a sip of water, I gotta come in and say something. Did y'all just get that? If you try to be everyone, if you try to be everything for everyone, you end up being nothing to everyone. Did I say that right? Well,
yeah, I don't know. I made it up.
The glimpse of what I'm saying. You get the glimpse of what I'm saying. The truth is, you have to segment down and bunker down and really focus on who is the ideal supporter for your cause and organization. So keep it up. People are loving it.
Okay. All right. And then I said this quote before, but I just want to say, like, if you keep one sentence in your mind around what donors want, it would be this. This is Seth Godin quote. He's like this marketing guru. I've never done any like marketing training, but this quote, when I heard it, I was like, this is the key to fundraising too. People like us do things like this. So anytime you're sending out a campaign email, you're meeting with a donor, you want to make sure that it's clear that you're talking to people like us, people like them, and that you're making it clear, what do people like us do? Right? People like us do things like this. And I'll throw in some other really new data around this, right? There's some data that for folks who are new to an organization or who have never given before, if they're sent a campaign email, they're really motivated by how much has already been raised towards that campaign. So if they're new to an organization, maybe they've given once, or they're a lapsed donor, they're really motivated by who has already given to the campaign. Folks who are like your ride or dies, they're really motivated by how much is left to close. So the data is the same. Let's say you've raised 70% of your campaign. With the folks who are your ride or dies, you want to say, like, we have 30% left to go, right? Because they are with you. They're already in it. They want to close the gap. The people who are lapsed donors, who are newer to your organization, who are prospects, they need to hear, we've already raised 70% from people like blank, blank, blank. Why? Why? Because of this quote. Because what people are doing before they have a relationship with your organization is they are deciding, do people like me do things like this? And so they're looking around to see who has been doing things like this. And they'll be like, oh, that person's like me, that person's like me, that person's like me. And like me does not mean demographic data as we've typically thought about it. It doesn't mean look like me. It doesn't mean come from the same place as me. It means care about the same things as me, want to see the same difference in the world as me. Those are the types of things that help people say, I'm like that. That's a person like me. And people like me do things like this. Okay. Next slide. Sometimes I get so excited that I just kind of get caught up in the moment. So the next slide, we're just going to go over like a really quick high-level summary of these pieces for you to start to walk through. And I know I gave you a lot today, and some of it might have been really new. And so I just want to encourage you to like give yourself time to sit with this, right? So the first piece is just understanding the relationship between how you feel as a fundraiser and what you think about fundraising. That's that cognitive behavior loop, because that is fundamental to unlocking your ability to build real relationships with your donors, right? It's the difference. to unlock your ability to really be able to see your organization through their lens. The second piece is that catabolic energy feels depleting and scattered over time, while anabolic energy is fueling and how you find your fundraising flow. So that is a thing you want to notice in relation to that cognitive behavior loop. 3 is that what donors want above all else is to have their basic needs met, meaning understanding, belonging, connection. And in order to meet our donors in this way, we need to be able to access our anabolic energy when making fundraising decisions or meeting with donors. And then 4 is that design strategies for your specific community and segments of your community, both in terms of collecting their feedback and your outreach to invite them to get involved, right? And that you can use some of the tips we went over today, those 4 tips, but I also want to encourage you to test things, to iterate, to see what resonates, to pick a small segment, try some language if you're not sure about, get their feedback, get their input. You know, Floyd and I on Monday were talking about community. Like, what does it mean to be in community, in communion, right? It doesn't mean perfectionism. It doesn't mean that you're going to understand them perfectly without talking to them, without asking them questions, without seeing how they respond. So be in communion with them and give them the opportunity to show you what they really care about too, and be ready to listen with that win-win empathy, anabolic energy. Okay. Questions, I think. Floyd, I'm going to kick it to you.
I'm out here recovering. I need to recover because, hey, this good word, you should see the chat. Someone says, this is fundraising gold. Natalie says, wow, wow, wow. Casey says, this is incredible. If y'all love this, can y'all let me know so I can tell Mallory in real time? So George says, this is the best info I've gotten in 1.5 years into learning about fundraising. Mallory is a rock star. Someone says they love this spin, incredible perspective. Renee says this is so good. Listen, this and we're going to print this out, by the way, so we can send it to you.
Yeah, can I put it on my wall?
On your wall. Yeah, exactly. Why don't you put it on your wall? This has been so good. We do have some questions in the Q&A, so I want to jump into those for a few minutes, but where do we start? Segmentation. I've heard about this topic. It's so important, we know, but we feel so strapped as a small organization. Where do you think is the best place for us to start as a small grassroots org?
Gosh, that's such a good question. That to me feels a little bit specific based on what you do and the different things that you fundraise around. But here's what I would say. I would see if you could hop on the phone with 5 of your funders, and I would start to learn from them. I would ask them the questions around what makes you feel like a sense of belonging to our organization. I would also ask them questions that have nothing to do with your organization. I would ask them what makes them feel hopeful in the world, period. I would ask them what keeps them up at night. I would ask them so that you can understand sort of what makes them tick. And I would record these calls, and then I would transcribe these calls. And then I would do something I call message mining, where you're looking for patterns or differentiators in language. Who are those people? What's the differences between them? What's the overlap between them? And even if you could create 2 segments between your groups, that it's clear that you have, people who really care about this and you have some people who really care about this, and then test it. Test the rolling out some different language with those folks. The other thing is you could also create 2 segments. If that feels like too big of a lift, what I just said, then start testing out some language based on giving levels around the show your support versus make a difference. That would be like the easiest thing to do. Start to see how that resonates with your audience. That's like a very quick segment process.
I love that. Someone asked a question, should we offer present from low to high or from high to low on our donation pages? So I'm not 100% sure what they mean by that, but I think what I'm gleaning is the idea of how do you communicate the order of importance on a fundraising page? Like, you talked a lot
Mm.
about appealing to donors' emotions, and talked a lot about making sure that they feel a part of the group, and all those different core elements. How would that look tactically on a donation page? Is it
Mm.
starting with the story potentially? Is it,
Mm.
talking about where their money is going to go? I mean, these are just some ideas that I have, but what would you say is the best order of importance and hierarchy when you're crafting your donation page?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know video to be so powerful, right? Another thing I love about Givebutter. And so I think like storytelling, and I think if you can create a little movie that both has like the storytelling component around the impact of giving, but also maybe has some donor reflections, that can be really powerful. That allows people to do the, people like me do things like this, but it
Mm,
also hits on the like impact of their gift. So I think that's really critical. The piece I think you're saying is, do you sort of scale from left to right the numbers of giving? I think the data supports that the bigger number being all the way on the left, being the first number that your eye goes to first, is actually the most beneficial in terms of the gift. So that's how I have my clients always do that. And I know on Givebutter, one of the other things I love about it is that inside the box where you put the number, you can
yes.
also write what it does. And that I think I always have my clients on Givebutter do that. I think it's hugely helpful. And it also really allows you then for your campaign pages to customize what you're saying there. So you're really quickly, right? You can have that for your overall campaign page. But like when I've done different campaigns with clients, sometimes the significance of that gift number varies based on what the campaign is fundraising around. And so it's really linked to the impact of that particular campaign. And I have found that to be really successful too.
I love that. I love that. All right, y'all. Who wants to work with Mallory directly? Who wants to work with Mallory? I know I do. I have my hand raised. But one of the things that I'm so excited to announce, Kelly says me. Yeah, who else wants to work with who else wants to work with Mallory? Cindy says me. Julia says me. Well, one of the things that I'm so excited to announce is that Givebutter is actually partnering with Mallory directly, so you all can do this. We are offering 10 $500 Givebutter. Natalie says, "Can we be best friends?" Yes. I love this. So Givebutter is providing 10 $500 Givebutter scholarships for the Power Partners formula. Once you go to Mallory's website, and this will be in the follow-up email, so don't worry, this will be in the follow-up email. But when you go to the website, you just type in the code Givebutter. One of the things I'm so excited about, I have seen this from start to finish, that this Power Partners formula is everything that Mallory talked about today and so much more. We are also going to be doing a hands-on session just for the Power Partners members in a couple of weeks. I'll be there. Mallory will be there, obviously. And we're going to help you take your campaigns and your donor strategy to the next level. So if you want to join the Power Partners program, just type in the code Givebutter, and we are offering 10 $500 scholarships for this amazing program, and it'll be in the follow-up email, okay? Someone who says,
And
I want one. I love it. Go ahead, Mallory.
yeah, grab it. I would just say this is more than 50%, and it's a 12-month program. There's monthly group coaching calls with me directly. So this is how you get one-on-one. This is how you get like personalized time with me. It's also, there are over 100 organizations inside it right now, and they are just some of the most amazing fundraisers and nonprofit leaders. And so it's just such an incredible community. And I'm so grateful to Givebutter for doing this and supporting Power Partners in just so many different ways. This is the biggest scholarship we have ever been able to offer for Power Partners. And it's really important that you also are making an investment in Power Partners, because what we know about habits and behavior is that your investment is what also helps you take action around the strategies that we are encouraging you to take inside the program. So that's what we're all about. We're so excited to welcome 10 more folks with Givebutter support in this way. So thank you, Floyd.
Yes. Well, we are just at time, but Mallory, we want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone who joined. This has been by far one of our biggest webinars, and it's been so exciting to have everyone. Y'all, make sure you join us next month, okay? We are going to be talking about another amazing topic that I know a lot of you guys resonate with, and that is beating burnout. out, okay? We talked a lot about it a little bit today, but we're gonna talk even more about beating fundraiser burnout, and you do not wanna miss that. Nikki, one of our new Givebutter experts, will be joining us, as well as Becky and Jonathan from We Are For Good. Y'all, I am so grateful to have you guys in our community. We are one team, one dream. Keep being the change maker that each and every one of you are. Be blessed.
You turned this from an idea in a dorm room into the #1 rated fundraising platform on the internet.
You raised over $100 million for charitable causes just in the last year.
You are making the world a better place, one gift at a time.